Should we bring in Seth, do some pregame
let's
strategy? I want to hear his strategy. I want to hear how he's thinking about going toe-to-toe. Let's bring him into the temple of technology, the fortress of finance. Hey, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Oh, you got the custom background with the billboard there.
Yeah, I'm starting with a little psychological warfare.
Okay.
That's my strategy. Just get them a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. What does it say? It says lesson South, shoot lesson a message, not Seth Greenberg.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very AI generated.
It says got a weird meme coin, shoot lesson a message, not Seth.
It's cut off.
Okay. It's cut off over here. But give us the breakdown. How did we wind up here?
So about a year ago, or maybe 6 months ago, Les and I had a public debate about, is the AI opportunity for startups or incumbents?
Yep.
And it got heated. And so, yeah, we've kind of just been going back and forth. And then he actually took out a physical billboard on the 101, with all amongst all these advertisements for AI companies that says AI is not your moat, love slow kind of thing.
Yep.
And then I just kind of tweeted back at him saying, I'm going to take out a billboard on the other side.
Okay.
And then, they
he actually
updated it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he threw up a new ad yesterday that says, got an AI startup idea, shoot Seth Rosenberg a message, not slow. So this is basically the Drake and Kendrick of allocators.
Yep.
And
the Tupac Biggie of this era. Really.
Exactly. No, but it's great. It's great to have you on. Sam's a fierce debater. We were talking with Logan Bartlett earlier.
He's moderated a debate before.
The debate. So we're going to try to keep it. I'm going to try to keep it very
keep it tight. Keep it tight. Because he's known to filibuster a little bit when you get him going.
That's right. Yeah.
So you guys
got to help me. Just cut Sam off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he might not even show up, and then you win by default.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
It's a forfeit.
Yeah.
Why don't since we have some time,
give some background on yourself.
Introduce yourself, some background for the listeners.
Sure. Well, so Sam actually hired me at Facebook in 2013.
No way. Okay.
So we've gone way back.
Crazy lore.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I was this young analyst at Goldman Sachs, spending 100 hours a week in spreadsheets, and then Sam invited me to this backroom dinner in New York talking about the future of the world. And this is back when Facebook had a little less baggage. It was still a startup energy, future of the world, giving individuals a voice, Arab Spring, all of that. And I was just super inspired by it. And so it was a 4-hour dinner conversation. I'm like, Sam, I definitely, that was the first time I met him, but he's quirky and futuristic. And so I'm like, I need to do this. So I spent any spare time I had, learning how to code and just getting up to speed on tech world, and then have just been in that world ever since.
How long were you at Facebook?
Yeah,
I was there for about 4 years. I led the separation of Messenger into its own app, and then David Marcus came on to lead it, and Stan came on and built kind of an empire around it. And then I was running
post Project Titan, because it wasn't Titan the whole project to put everything together, and then you kind of
that was after I left. Okay, this was the opposite of that. This was the separation. Yeah. This was back when it was Facebook chat.
That's the game at a hyperscaler. You just break it apart, put it back together, employment for PMs in the valley.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there for phase 1.
Okay.
And then you went straight to Greylock, or what was your next move?
No. So I was running the product for the developer platform at Facebook, which was AI bots, messenger bots. It's the hottest thing in Silicon Valley for 4 months before everyone realized it didn't work, because we were 7 years away from LLMs actually, being released.
Yeah, I remember those bots. Lots of business logic, lots of if-then statements.
Exactly.
Dressed up with a nice UI every once in a while. But
all right, we got your former boss, or at least a guy that hired you, is in the waiting room now, so we can bring him in.
Let's bring him in.
And
bring him into the temple of technology, the fortress of finance, the capital of capital. And if they get out of hand, I'm going to be ringing this gong, telling you, hurry it up, finish what you're saying. No filibustering on this debate.
Sam, you almost forfeited by being late.
I was in the waiting room. I'm sitting there. I wore my Team Canada, Canadian Team Canada architects for you, Seth.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm I
just got
support
rid
your
of ski
51st
racing.
state.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm American now. I kind of support it too, honestly.
Yeah, there you go.
it's great. Well, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the debate. Should we do some opening arguments? What lay down the general what is the actual point that we're debating here? Sustaining versus disruptive innovation for artificial intelligence? Is that kind of where you guys are differing most?
I think the debate is that Sam has too much disposable income to waste on billboards.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Sam, what's the
Shots
ROI been
fired.
so far? Are you?
I don't know, Seth. How many
printing?
AI pitches have you gotten from my billboard?
Actually, honestly, like the inbox is full. Yeah.
There you go.
Fantastic.
You're
There you
welcome. You're welcome.
There you go.
I see
That-
no debate here. I'm very happy to send Seth all the AI pitches, and life is good.
And
Yeah.
to be clear, this debate is presented by AdQuick, the #1 way to buy billboards on the 101.
Yes. If
and
you're
more.
trying to duke it out with a rival, get on
Yeah,
AdQuick, get a billboard.
It's underrated to take, debates from the timeline to the 101.
Yes.
Just air it all out. But yeah, so Sam, we had Lesson on the show, I think last Friday, broadly, talking about opportunities in AI and the whole kind of full spectrum. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't even know necessarily where to start. You guys were the ones that were
Well, okay.
arguing.
Here's what I'll Seth and I have been debating this for years. Let me try to tee it up, which
Okay.
is I for several years, so I try to be self-consistent, have been very pro that AI is going to make the big platforms a shit ton of money, and it's going to be really good for small businesses. But it is a terrible place to hunt for startups. Right? It's a great way to lose a lot of money on startups. Now, my refinement of that, which I will give as a refinement from my original, is I do really believe in what I'll call AI cherry on top businesses, which is businesses that are good, that there's a sweetener because of the efficiency of AI. But broadly speaking, when people come in and pitch AI, my answer is pass. Please go call Seth. Seth's answer, I think, is please call me.
Okay, Seth, what do you
Okay.
gotta say?
So I think that tees it up well. So I'll give you two examples of where I think massive new businesses can be built that are, let's say, AI native. I think one is like networks and marketplaces based on new democratization of being able to create new types of content. So like the analogy on the phone is you now have a camera in everyone's pocket. The first wave of apps was like camera filter apps. And then Instagram.
No, the first wave of apps
Instagram,
were fart apps.
fart apps and like drinking a beer
The
app.
beer drinking.
Fair. But like the first
Straight
camera apps were like, just like little fun tools you could do with the camera. But then the real mobile first business were things like Instagram and Snap, right? Which basically created networks around democratization of creation of new content. And I think if you think about AI, like what new types of content can now be created by everyone, there's a few examples. One are games. Like, what's the next Roblox? Two is music. Is Suno going to have like a consumption experience? So going to be a new type of network there. Three is software, right? Just generally. I don't know if there's enough out there to build like a web app store around productivity or vertical SaaS or whatever, but there's basically democratization of new content type. And I think you could create a marketplace around that. I think you could build a big business.
So, I mean,
I guess.
Go ahead.
I guess to like maybe push you a bit further there, like specifically around Suno, and I don't have no insight into what they're actually doing, but if I create a great song on Suno, don't I want to share that with like the most amount of people? So just like take that to YouTube or X, and wouldn't that be an argument that like the value just kind of continues to just like anchor around the sort of distribution platform?
Yeah, I think that would be a base case or kind of like smaller outcome for Suno if it just kind of gets relegated into the creative tool. Mm-hmm. But I think if like the number and quality of things that are actually created on the Suno platform starts to exceed, or at least like take a meaningful but separate piece of the market, then they could just create a more closed ecosystem where the only way to get that content is on Suno.
I just think that's extremely unlikely. I mean, the thing that I think is like that I would say I buy is I'd say that in general, the medium is the message, right? And so you have in a lot of places. And so when you have a new technical
by the way,
tool-
Sam made me read that book as onboarding for Facebook.
I did. I used to have the distinction of controlling the reading list, which I invented for all onboarded PMs. And I hired Seth and then made him read.
Marshall
What was it?
McLuhan.
It was
McLuhan.
Marshall
Crash.
McLuhan, Snow
Yeah.
Crash.
Snow Crash. Okay.
Snow Crash was well
Stevenson.
before Oculus on the required reading list.
Fantastic.
A few others. But look, I mean, I think here's what I was gonna say is, I do. If you think about like a lot of what the internet is, people like to think about it as a technology, right? Or a lot of that's what it really is like an information economy or a content economy. And like I think if you start thinking about things on economic terms of like producers, consumers, like what's the holistic picture of that, you do get some really interesting frameworks for talking about AI. So I'll give you an example. What is Facebook or what is social media? It really is a content pump, right? There are rules, there's an economy established with it. That economy then produces a certain type of content, pumping out of humans that otherwise wouldn't have been pumped out, and then recirculates and shares and creates an economy around it. If you said, hey, AI creates some new affordances that makes it cheaper to pump information, like all of a sudden we can frack humans, right, in a new way. And by fracking them, there's some sort of like new content type that comes out that is super compelling and super different. Sure, like maybe that there's something there, but I think that the most likely outcome by a mile when you think about products is it just turns out that like most products and the platforms already exist. It's all about getting later, getting paid. These AI is one of the greatest extensions of existing platforms you could imagine. It just makes everything better. And just like fracking, you kind of get new content or cheaper content from people because AI makes it easier, but it all flows through the same fucking pipelines, right? And the money is not in the fracking because the fracking itself is commodity.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the fracking is commodity, meaning the creation. The question is, can you frack something new that then creates a new network, right? And
I just think it's
Facebook
extremely unlikely because the pipelines exist, right? Like there's no, like, what is the new, like, you don't, it's just oil.
Yeah,
Well,
but
you're
does
making
that
the
make it a
argument that
good
like
VC?
Facebook
Does that
is
make it a good VC bet? If even if there's like a 5% chance, but the new network is
I mean, that's what happened with TikTok, right? Like it was first just a lip syncing app, and you would repost that content elsewhere, and then they bootstrapped a network on top of it, and became a very good outcome for, I guess, the CCP. But
I
you could
think
imagine
that
an
was
American,
a new content type. That was a new content. Like Snap.
Doesn't Harry Potter Balenciaga videos? Couldn't that be the lip syncing video of this era?
I feel like I'm a Democrat with CNN on my side here. I got the host on my side. But
no,
I don't know. I just think
we're just guiding the conversation.
Yeah.
I think you're both. I think you're both wrong. No, I'm kidding.
The problem with AI in general, and I think the entire AI discussion is, I always like to point out, it's like the average of infinity and zero is infinity. Mm-hmm. Right. And so VCs aren't very good at math, but they can do that one. And so the problem is you say, okay, this is so disruptive that even though the likely outcome is zero, because there's like no math you can do on this and market big, then you're like, well, I'll pay anything because maybe it's a thing. Right. And like, I think that's actually what's going on in the industry a lot. I think it's quite bad because it leads to this like complete lack of like thoughtfulness and discipline. It's just like the most rudimentary math on what happens. I look a lot. There are actually projects. I'll give you an example of something I actually believe is like new content that can exist because of AI that not only I've invested in, I helped start, right? Which is we work on this thing called Merit First with Joe Lonsdale and his team. We have some good announcements that'll happen.
Yeah, I
on
like
that
this,
soon.
Sam.
Here's the thing about it. Here's the basic setup for it. And it is an interesting AI oriented business because you say, look, the way you hire people to date in most worlds is credential based. You're like, you went to Harvard, you studied this thing, you got this checkbox, now you're in my pipeline. Hell, I hired Seth because we used to go to New York and say, we want to talk to the smartest people from Bain, McKinsey, Goldman, BCG, and Morgan. That was it. That was like the entire thing. We're like, we don't know how to look at everyone. We're just going to like go call those people and we'll like pick some of them, right? That was how we did hiring. At least in the alternative PM hiring we were doing. What is way better is to do it based on what you can actually do, based on tests, based on, forget credentials. I don't care how you got good at something. Like show me what you can do. Here's the problem is if you go to a most hiring manager and say, hey, hire based on tests, you have three problems. One is they're like, well, I don't know how to design a good test, right? Like what is a good test for this role? It's actually pretty hard to figure that out and make it meaningful. Two, how do I know you're not cheating? And three, the biggest, most non-obvious, once you have like 10,000 applications for something, you're screwed because you can't possibly actually grade all those tests, right? Unless it's like a multiple choice, which is like not sophisticated. So does AI have leverage on that? Absolutely. Does that mean that there's like a new way to think about a human interaction? Like how do you hire people because AI exists? Absolutely. Like that is the type of thing, but it's not, you're not investing in the AI. You're investing in like a new way or a new approach to hiring, which happens to leverage AI, right? And I think there is an important distinction there.
Yeah, I'm glad I already got hired, so I don't have to compete.
Yeah,
with
you don't have to do a test.
I don't have to compete with 20,000 other people. But that's actually kind of the second big bucket, Sam, of AI opportunities that to me are very obvious, which is just AI opening up new markets that were historically owned by labor, right? And right now you're talking about recruiting, massive industry. It's mostly human led. There's a long list of others, right, where technology is now taking labor spend, whether it's legal, whether it's accounting, compliance. We have a company in our portfolio called Greenlight that's growing super fast. And it's just, these large banks and fintechs have like thousands of compliance analysts that just go through checkboxes and write reports. And so you're competing with BPOs in these cases.
Well, kind of, but I think this is something you have to be really careful about because this goes back to the whole like, what are you actually investing in, and is this an AI company? Like one of the big memes right now in venture capital is, oh, we should like buy accounting firms and make them robots.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not doing the roll up.
And it's like, I mean, we've actually done a bunch of roll ups that we think do make sense, but like this is one in particular I think is really stupid because people don't understand the point of accountants, right? The point of an accountant is not like you could have a robot, you could have some fancy AI that has a 1% error rate or even a 0.1% error rate on your taxes. Your accountant might be running a 3% error rate. Who do you hire? You hire the human. You know why? Because you know what you're really hiring with an accountant? You're hiring someone so that when the IRS is like, you fucked up your taxes, you're like, I don't know, talk to Steve. Right. And
but you can still do that. You can still sell software to big account. Like there's 1.6 million accountants right now.
Send them the chatgpt.com link.
Yeah. So the basic point is like there's a lot of jobs that people want to like, ooh, machine can automate. And you're like, you don't understand. Like this is a liability shifting thing. Like a lot of human jobs are not actually about doing the thing. They're about shifting liability and responsibility. Right. That's actually
I agree that the job will change to its essence, which is like trust and sales. Right. But that just means that individual guy, Steve, who everyone trusts to put a rubber stamp, can do 10 times the amount of business with.
But the basic, the problem is the AI itself is commodity and everyone will have it. And like, that's not where the leverage is. So you're not really investing in the AI business, right? You're still investing in the accounting business, Steve's business, right? And everyone has the same level. It's a classic war of attrition where like and I just don't think this is a place where like, unlike where you're going to like make money on the arms dealing because the arms dealing is all commodity.
Well, the question is, does Steve, like, is the software that Steve's using to leverage himself, is that OpenAI and ChatGPT?
It doesn't.
Is that Thomson Reuters, or is that a new
It just doesn't
company?
matter. It's all commodity.
Okay, how do you map this to the mobile wave? Because we were just talking to Logan Bartlett about this. It's kind of the classic innovator's dilemma: sustaining innovation versus disruptive innovation. And with mobile, it's like it did feel like a sustaining innovation in that the mobile Salesforce was just Salesforce, and yet a lot of VCs made a lot of money betting on mobile companies if they got into WhatsApp. You don't think so?
They didn't make that much money on it. I mean, I think Silicon Valley has a story that venture capitalists like to tell LPs, which is every X years, the whole thing gets reshuffled and there's all this money to be made. It's bullshit, right? Like the going from shrink rack software to internet, that was a big deal, right? Sure. That was a paradigm shifting, broke the machine thing. I would actually argue that the shift to mobile was not disruptive at all. Right? Like you have all the same winners, they're just bigger, right? I would argue that the shift to cloud was barely disruptive, right? And it just turns out that like there's a very big difference between things that are so important and paradigm shifting, they break the incumbents, and there's huge opportunities for win. Like that's why crypto is really interesting. Think what you will of it. Crypto is extremely hostile to incumbents, right? As like a concept. We can talk about how it's being now co-opted by incumbents, but like in general, like it fundamentally is. Whereas I could not think of a more classically extending innovation than AI, right? It just makes the rich richer.
When's the Sam Lesson Mag 7 ETF coming then? If you're so bullish on the
No, you got to buy
hyperscalers?
jelly.
Well, first of all, I'd say the Mag 7, like I would actually argue, because I like to lick the cookie on these things.
Yeah.
Is like I was like, I think, if you go back 2 years, like pitching the like these are the 5 companies that are going to win in AI, and it's all the same ones that already exist. I mean,
Sure.
it was, so I'm into the Mag 7 thing. I also would say, like, when people ask me like my AI investing strategy, I'm gonna say, like, thank God I held on to some Facebook stock.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's the answer. It's
What
like
about
the
the
best
idea that-
AI bet.
Yeah, what about the idea that like Apple's slipping or Google's not shipping fast enough? Like this does create
Well,
opportunities for entrepreneurs at least to build a company that gets acquired or something. Like
They're
you
not
don't
gonna get
think so?
acquired. They're just
No?
gonna
Yeah.
get copied.
Here's
Okay.
what I'd say. Like, I don't think the AI, I think here's maybe some common ground with Sam and I. Like, I don't think AI is going to kill incumbents in favor of startups, but I do think it opens up new markets. And yes, they're outliers, but that's kind of what we're in the business of doing and funding. And like for mobile, yes, like it didn't kill Facebook, it didn't kill Airbnb, but it created Uber, it created DoorDash, it created Instacart, it created TikTok, right? It created Snap, it created Instagram, created WhatsApp. And so these are tens of billions, hundreds of billions of value that were kind of mobile first. And it's a similar thing, which is like, what are the new capabilities, GPS, camera, video? Can you use that as a hook to then create a sustainable business, whether it's a network? I agree with you, Sam, that like AI by like doing an API call to OpenAI is obviously not defensible, but can you use it as a hook to then build a real business?
And I just think the answer is, in almost all places, no, right? Like, I think it's a thing. It's just like everyone uses it. Everything gets leveled up. Like, to your thing about incumbents and Apple. Look, Apple is comical. We talked about this last week. Like,
Yeah.
the Apple stuff is like pretty funny, right? Because it's so bad, right? But it's not going to make me buy an Android phone, right? Like, and so you're like, so they have a hell of a lot of time to figure out something. Like, we are a long way away from that being a real issue for them, even if it's pretty funny.
What about the more sclerotic industries? I mean, you're thinking about, like management consultants seem to be printing money on AI, just strapping on AI pitches onto legacy businesses. As I see, like, I go to IBM or something with, I want to re-platform my app and I just need a bunch of programmers to do that. It feels like an AI native company there could potentially scale up and get really big.
I don't know. I mean, like, look, Accenture is going to make a lot of money short term on this stuff, right?
Totally.
Short term. The problem is Accenture is mostly in the business of BPO outsourcing, and they're going to kind of eat themselves in doing that, right? And so it's going to be a very different world for them in terms of how they navigate this. But like anyone who sells business consulting is going to do pretty well in a period where like
IT transformation.
For a little bit. It's just like these are not VC backed businesses. Like, these are consulting firms that will make money for a little bit, right?
I mean, it seems like you're just super bearish on VC as an asset class. Like, should founders just go and build, just go and build a lifestyle business or something, or pick some different capital structure?
So go for it, Seth.
Yeah, no, I mean, AI is also great. I think AI is just an accelerant for everything. It makes large companies more profitable. It opens up new markets for startups, whether it's services businesses or new networks. And it's also great for lifestyle businesses. There's a long tail of random problems that you can now solve really specifically with a very small team.
So the way I would phrase it is related, but a little differently, which is, in life, the middle usually drops out, right? And I think AI is a great example of dropping out the middle. Like, there's no such thing as being a $10 billion public company anymore. It's just like a dumb place to be. No one cares, right? You either want to be a hyperscaler, right? Which is it's a great place. Like, most of the market says AI interesting. Where put money for AI, right? And like, that's like been the seek. And that's why you've seen like the Mag 7 and particularly things like Facebook just crushing it. Because you're like, no liability, tons of upside, like easy bet. Like, why is everyone buying Nvidia? They're like, we don't know how to invest in this. Nvidia seems fine. Or like, we don't know how to invest in this. Let's just buy power, right? Like, because we're not sure how this plays out. So like, the big will keep getting bigger and there'll be like a massive thing. And then on the very small end, you're like thinking about lifestyle. Look, the reason we have a creator fund, right? The reason that we do a bunch of stuff at the low end is I totally buy the thesis that you're going to see individuals that have a lot of trust and brand and community and deeply understand a niche, do things you haven't seen before. Like, I buy the one person $1 billion company thing. Like, I think that's real with the leverage you have. I think the key is you just have to have the right capital for the mission you're on. And having the wrong capital is a really bad place. And by the way, the worst capital you can have, I personally think, is being a subscale company competing with hyperscalers using venture capital, right? That's like a recipe for total disaster because the hyperscalers have orders of magnitude more money and time, right? And you're just like, you're kind of truly bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Well, isn't it possible that we wind up looking back on this in a few years and think like, oh, we just hadn't thought of what the Uber for AI is? How do you think about the Uber story with mobile to, today? Like Uber was hard to predict when the iPhone dropped.
I mean, we're already seeing the Uber
industry.
for AI. They're like,
what's the Uber for AI?
Cursor, like the next Roblox.
No, those like they're fine. They're fine. I think that, like it's interesting. Why do you think Cursor is interesting? Like Cursor's. I like it. I use it as a product. I don't see it as a good business.
I just think like it's the classic like startups need to get distribution before incumbents innovate. And now because these tools are so powerful, you're actually able to get distribution as a new company very quickly. So if you're first to market with the best product, then you can start leaning into all of the other things that kind of give you defensibility.
I don't know. I think that's true. The thing is people are applying network thinking to what's fundamentally just a technology, right? It's not there's no network, there's no lock-in.
Cursor not a network. Yeah.
So
but there's a lot of SaaS products that become very sticky because they become the default.
I don't think so. I think the whole point of AI is the switching cost for almost all this stuff goes to zero, right? And because switching cost is zero, there's just no. I mean, like people like I use Chorus. Have you guys played with Chorus?
No.
It's awesome.
Actually, I haven't used it.
It's great. It's basically just like a desktop app, and you plug all the LLMs into it, right? Like you have keys for all of them, and like I don't care. Like use the best one marginally. When a new one comes out, the only defensible thing it is there's so many fucking LLM models at this point. I'm happy to give someone the job of actually researching them all and deciding which one to send a specific query to. Like there's some sort of aggregation value there for a little bit for now, but I don't know,
I think
man.
One fun thought exercise on the social side is that, we went through this generation, social media was great initially because people were like, oh, it's actually more interesting to see what my friends are kind of talking about and doing versus just like traditional media, which is like random people. And then it was like the Kim Kardashian era of, it's more interesting to like follow a famous person's life. And it's possible to imagine a world where just being in a version of Instagram where everyone's a bot and they all like, are either polarizing or exactly aligned with your views. And there's just like this kind of constant stream and everybody gets 1,000 likes on their posts and they post. So like
my line on this has been that for 20 years, the way you start a social network is you say, who do you want to follow? And the way to start a social network today is say, who do you want to follow you? Right. Is like the inversion that you could see. Like I'd actually argue Twitter is already doing this. Like Twitter, I think is I have no inside information. My sense is it is intentionally full of bots, right? Because people are lonely. People want responses. It's clearly full of
dopamine.
bots.
Yeah.
They want the dopamine.
We talked about this, Sam, as like a new social network.
Yeah. So you're like, look, there just aren't mathematically enough humans to fulfill people's need for like validation. So like, sure, throw a bunch of machines in the mix so that people have more validation floating.
This is why I debate Sam. I just want more billboards.
Yeah.
I think one example that is way too easy to like, or way too early to make a call is you have, so Seth, you guys are in Tome, which started out as like the ability to like generate slides, which like people spend a ton of time all day long making slide decks. Like there's probably billions of dollars spent just producing slide decks in the US for various use cases. They recently sort of pivoted into a space around, automating sales research and outbound. You can imagine like a real test will be, can Tome compete with Salesforce when Salesforce has this sort of army of people like jamming comparable products, and actually there was some news in the information, I think yesterday, that Salesforce is basically saying, if you don't pay for Agentforce, we're like raising your regular, rates on the CRM side, like 3x.
Well, I can already give you the answer. So let's say I answer his company, but I love Keith. I really respect him. He's a great guy. He used to work with me too, same team. no way can Tome compete on this. But I'll go even a step further, which is this entire industry of outbound goes away. This is where we talk about the real displacement of what's going on. So first, I mean, I have several portfolio companies. They're calling it saying, we have this thing, we tried this thing in AI, but now all the platforms are just bundling it and giving it away, and we can't compete because even if we're better, so like that's happening all over the place, and you're like, duh, of course that's going to happen. This is an easy tack on. But then the step two, which is where the really interesting social displacement comes, is everyone's excited about, oh, I can use AI to like customize outbound sales or something. You're like, your inbox is now worthless because once all the sales are customized, you can't tell what's real and what's fake. That entire economy collapses, right? So I'd actually go, the more likely outcome is A, no, Tome can't beat Salesforce, but two, even if they could, that entire emotion goes away because of AI.
Yeah, look, I don't think you need to beat Salesforce to be very successful and to find a segment of the market that wants a more modern product that, understands your business, has everything in one place, and can actually make your sales team a lot more effective with a more modern architecture. So I think Tome is going to be successful because, again, you can think about this hypothetically, or you can talk to customers, especially in different segments, and just see where the pain is. But one thing I'll agree with Sam on is I think we're in an outlier business. You have to be very selective. I think people who are overpaying for things that are not durable at like crazy prices, that's not a game that we're playing, and not a game that I believe in either. I think, backing like amazing product builders and technologists, going after either existing markets that need to be totally re-architected using AI, or totally new markets that open up, whether it's like a gaming network or replacing services in, a very long tail of really large markets. I still think there's like a massive amount of value to be made.
I just think that it's such a different, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I think you don't want to back generic Facebook PMs anymore who know AI and product, right? Because they don't know anything, right? And like, it's just if anything, the irony is all those things are getting hyper commoditized in terms of, and AI only commoditizes it faster in terms of how do you build and what is a product. This stuff doesn't, like, if you told me, and we look at some of this too, you have a truly unique market insight. You understand a market that no one else gets because you've been a specialist for 20 years in it or whatever. By the way, the tools of building and the paradigms have changed so quickly. There's an opportunity to build something new. Yeah, there's interesting stuff there. We do businesses that are AI quote unquote enabled all the time that fit that pattern. But those people are generally not building quote unquote AI tools. They're just like, it's kind of like saying like they're not building cloud companies or internet companies. They're just building great companies that happen to leverage technology.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like there was like an AI conference last week, and I'm like, this concept of an AI conference is going to last like 6 months because eventually, it's
like building an internet business.
Everything's computer.
Everything's
no
computer. Everything's computer for sure.
Everything's computer.
We're at 30 minutes. We got to ring the gong. We got to wrap it up.
So
Closing
who won the
arguments?
debate, guys?
Closing arguments. We'll let the fans decide.
Yeah,
we'll let the market
internet
decide.
We'll let the bots decide. And
I'll
so
put,
the boss decide.
whichever, it's an economic battle. It's a capital war, capital fight. Whoever deploys more bots to vote wins. So
No. Here's the real way we're gonna do it. I will put a calendar invite for like 5 years from now.
Okay,
I love that.
Yes.
And we'll just come back. We'll watch the debate, and we'll just pause, and people can take little victory laps. They can talk about companies.
I love that.
That's
that
great.
made
I love
it.
that.
So 5 years from today, mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars.
I look forward to it. Thank you guys for jumping on.
This is
have
fantastic.
fun on the 101.
Enjoy.
Have a great
See you
weekend.
guys.
Talk to you
Good to
soon.
see you, Sam.